What's today's theme? Today's topic? Yeah, what's that? Fear? Yeah, living beyond fear's illusion. Very interesting topic, and for that, we have our guest speaker, John McConnell, with us. John is a stress management trainer and a former prison governor and social worker. He has been studying and teaching Raj Yoga meditation with Brahma Kumaris nearly 30 years. So this evening, we will have a wealth of experience. And John has a strong interest in practical application of spiritual principles and insight in daily life, as is the author of Breaking Through the Darkness. So John has a really good book, and how to deal with depression, anxiety, and stress as a spiritual perspective. So it's over to John. Thank you.
Can you hear me? You can. So nice to be here again, and nice to see you, and hello to everybody online. And very important topic, very interesting topic, very deep topic, and if we have clarity about the difference between love and fear, then it will sort out a lot of our issues. So before we get into it, it's nice to do a minute or two of relaxation, meditation. So if you'd like to make sure you're sitting upright with your legs uncrossed and your feet on the floor, hands open on your thighs, and then breathe in slowly, deeply and gently through your nose. And fill your lungs from the bottom to the top. Hold the breath to the count of 3. And then slowly release through the mouth. Take a few more deep breaths like this. And just focus on your breath as it comes in and out of the body. And this will bring you into the here and now. And now just imagine with each breath in, you're filling your whole mind and body and heart, everything with peace. So the body becomes more and more relaxed. And then with each breath out, we're letting go of any tension, any worry, any fear. So gradually, we're becoming more and more peaceful. So just enjoy being peaceful. And now, if your eyes are closed, open them and bring your attention back into this room or wherever you are. And then it's good to just look around you and smile. The smile is very, very beneficial. So have you all smiled? Just double checking, make sure everyone here is smiling. And yeah, there we go. So smiling makes you feel relaxed. Smiling makes you feel good. It releases endorphins, and that's going to help quite a lot. Excuse me, is there any way of getting rid of the echo? There's a lot of echo at the moment. So it's echoing in here, so it may be echoing online as well. So is that a bit better? I think so, isn't it? Yes, that is better. Maybe a bit louder. And there we go. Yeah, so it's good to relax, and it's good to go into that state of peace because, as everyone who comes here knows, peace is our natural state of being. It's the original state and the original condition of the soul. And anything that disturbs that peace is going to lead to fear, going to lead to anxiety, it's going to lead to stress and things like that. So it's good to have that foundation against which to judge things. And it's good to have that foundation there also to remind us of how we're meant to be. Because quite often, we're not peaceful. Quite often we are anxious, we are afraid. And in fact, we're living in probably the most anxious and fear-based state that the world has ever been in. In the past, I'm sure there has been lots of fear, but it's maybe been more localized between different countries maybe, or between different areas and different religions, but on a much smaller scale. And therefore it hasn't had quite the same impacts that it's having now because everything has gone global, partly through the media and things like that, partly through the way that business, etc., has now developed. So there are connections all over the world, and we soon hear very quickly what's going on. And on those general level, there's many things that people are afraid of at the moment. In fact, there's probably never been so many, or so extreme, or so severe as they are now, because there's so much fear about the climate and what's going to happen there. There's fear of volcanoes, tsunamis, all sorts of natural phenomena which are rapidly increasing in frequency. There's the fear of the economies of the world because they all are in chaos now, and a lot are declining. And then there's a lot of fear about religion. Different religions are in conflict with each other in certain areas in the world. And a lot of that expresses itself through, war and things like that, of which we're all, very aware. So it's a time of, great anxiety. It's a time of great uncertainty. And, fear always blossoms in times like this because there's fear of the unknown, what's going to happen in the future. There's fear about myself, what's going to happen to me. There's fear about my family, there's fear about work, there's fear about inflation, etc., etc. So many different types of fear, and they all end up expressing themselves one way or the other. Collectively, they'll express themselves through civil disobedience or disruption or wars and things like that. And then on a more personal level, they'll express themselves through conflict in families, divorce rates going up, suicide rates going up, more and more people taking antidepressants. There's huge numbers of people now taking antidepressants, which are a way really of trying to get rid of the fear or manage the fear, which people are experiencing. So there's a lot coming at us from the outside, and then there can be things coming at us from the inside, fear based on past experiences. So, I may be lacking in confidence because I was always brought up to think I was no good, or I was inferior to other people in the family. Or I may have had a really traumatic childhood experience which really put me off adults, or maybe traumatic events connected with the religion I was part of, etc., etc. So there's like a tsunami of all these things, and the question then is, what do we do with them, and try and understand them on a deeper level. Of course, the opposite, we'll do that in a minute, but the opposite of all of that is love. Fear is the opposite of love. Love is the answer to everything on one level or another, as we will be seeing. So it has a total different mindset, has a total different approach to things. It's not based on scarcity like the fear-based model. It's based on abundance. It's not based on ego. It's more based on humility. It's more based on sharing and caring rather than competition and, the winner takes all, which is part of the fear-based approach. So there are very two clear models on which really you could say the history of the whole world is based. If you're able to take a step back and see a bigger picture, there's the world of love, which is full of peace and harmony and gentleness and caring and compassion, people living together in quite often like large families without falling out, living in villages where everyone supports each other, looking after nature, loving nature, having a loving connection with animals, with the trees, with the seas and the plants and the birds and the fish and everything. There's one whole world over here which has love as its root and its foundation, if you like. And then there's another world here, which is the opposite in every way. And you could say there are two words to describe, or one word to describe each of those, so two words altogether. What would you say would be this world based on love? What's one word which you would use to describe this or sum up this world? It's a world, it could, if you were living in that world, it would be like what? Have a guess. Everyone's living in peace and harmony. Nature is beautiful and green. Everyone loves everything. There's no arguing. There's no shouting. It's a world of like, a word to describe it all. Sorry? Paradise. Yes, paradise or heaven. Yeah. And then there's another world here, based on the fear and the competition and the greed and exploitation of everything and everyone, killing and eating all the animals, destroying the oceans to get a few fish, fighting each other over scarce resources. A word to describe that? A prison. Yeah, that's one word. Yeah. Sorry? The real world. Well, a word to describe the real world then. Sum it up in one word. Sorry? Hell? Yes. And that's the world we're living in at the moment. We're actually living in hell. Hell isn't somewhere else. It's here and now. And some people are in the extreme depths of it, going through unbelievable things. And even if you're not in the extreme depths, we're still going through it in lots of other ways, through health issues and things like that, through being lonely, living by ourselves, maybe not having any support, or our families living far away. Like my daughter lives, 1,000 miles away in Spain, and WhatsApp and things like that can help bring you closer together on one level, but not much help if you fall out of bed in the middle of the night, which I haven't done, but it could happen, couldn't it? Sometime, who knows? So so there's these two worlds then, the world of heaven and the world of hell. So which world would you prefer to be in? Hands up those who'd like to be in heaven. Oh, well, that's good then. Yeah, so you'd all like to be in heaven, right? Well, that's great. So there we go. So in a way then, all you have to do, now you want to go there, is find out how to get there. And that again is, well, it's easier said than done, but this is what the Brahma Kumaris in a way is all about, isn't it? It's about changing ourselves, and then through that we change the world. And if we go back to our original state, what were we like originally? The first time we came down onto the earth as a soul, what were we? What were our qualities? Yes, we were happy. What else? Sorry? Sad? Well, hopefully not. Not when you first came down. You might be sad later on, definitely. And that's, in a way, that's part of being in hell, isn't it? When you're feeling sad rather than happy. So thank you for that answer. And it's very good that you've got the confidence to speak up and say that in front of all of us, because at your age, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And even now, I keep my mouth quiet or shut when people ask me questions in a more private setting. So that's very good. So, so one of those qualities is happiness. And what are the others then? Yes, peaceful. Yes, loving. Great. Pure. Yes. And powerful. So we're full of this amazing, powerful, positive energy. And in connection with that, then, how do we see the world when we're in that state of complete power and positivity? What's our consciousness like? Is it low or is it high? Yes, so we're in a high state of consciousness. And when we're in a high state of consciousness, what are the vibrations like? They're going to be high as well, aren't they? They're going to be very powerful, and they'll be radiating out everywhere, and we'll all be connecting on this very high vibrational level. And in that situation, nothing can disturb us. In fact, there won't be anything to disturb us because we're so powerful. We affect everything. We affect the environment and nature and everything. Everything else then is very powerful and positive and very cooperative and very supportive. So, it's great. And everybody, sooner or later, well, everybody does experience that feeling of being in heaven. Even if you come down on the earth now, which we're describing as a state of hell, for a lot of people, it's not, because, their idea of heaven may be having a good time and dancing and singing and being with friends, etc., etc. They'll have a very different idea of heaven, maybe, and maybe they'll be living in a quieter or a more supportive country, which is still relatively affluent and things like that. So they'll be in their own little heaven, but it won't be quite as good as the bigger heaven, which we may have experienced when we first come onto the earth. So it's good to understand that, because this is why, we want to go and live in heaven, because we've actually lived in heaven before. And this is where the spiritual perspective comes in, because we start seeing it in a different light, in a different way. We're not just material beings in a material world. Like, science in the last couple of 100 years has really debunked the idea of heaven and things like that, and even denied the existence of the soul, and just seen human beings as a more advanced animal that when it dies, that's the end. It's no different from an ape or another animal. It would just, return to dust and things like that. And there's no recognition of a spirit. There's no recognition of a higher self. So if you don't have that understanding, if you don't have that awareness, then this world is going to be even more scary than if you do have it. Because another big thing which everyone then has to face, if they're not aware of the spiritual side, is something else. What is it? Everyone will have to face it sooner or later, and that is, yes, very good, you're on the ball. Yeah, that's the big D. That's the elephant in the room that people don't want to talk about quite often, and they don't want to talk about it because they're afraid, because they don't have a spiritual perspective or understanding that we're more than a body. So if you're on this side and you have got no awareness of being a soul, no awareness that you were and are originally full of peace and love and happiness, and you're struggling, everything that's on offer isn't going to really satisfy you. The bigger house, the bigger car, lots of holidays abroad and things like that, they're not going to really satisfy you, because they can't. They may distract you. They may give you an opportunity to forget for a little while about other things. But sooner or later, you can't avoid these big issues. And I think this is one of the reasons why people put so much faith and hope in the NHS, because it is brilliant at keeping us alive longer. Most of its resources are spent on older people, and it's amazing the wonderful job they do in keeping us going. I have to include me in that now. I've reached the older bit stage, and all the drugs they provide, all the operations they give to people for their hips and their knees and everything else. It's truly amazing. But it still doesn't solve the problems, the ultimate problems of life and death and things like that. So, so that fear thing, we need to face it. We need to acknowledge it. And we need to accept it. So no point in running away from it, because it's going to pop up again sooner or later. Anything, it's a bit like a ball in water. You can press it down, an inflated ball, it wants to come up. And then the greater the pressure you put on it to force it down more and more, so it doesn't come up, then if you take your hands off it, the greater the force it will be when it does come up. And I think it's the same with all our fears. You can try and deny them. You can, have the drink, take the drugs, watch loads of boxes. What do they call those boxes on TV? You know, the box series of X, Y, or Z. Get lost in all those things, but there's going to be a knock on the door, and the knock will get louder and louder the more you ignore it. And I would say even the physical illnesses that we have, they're all coming from that same space of fear. Because when we're in a state of fear, we're stressed. When we're in a state of fear, the adrenaline is pumping around our system, our blood is getting thicker, our muscles are contracting, and we're putting a lot of pressure on our hearts and other parts of the body. And so, you know, there's no escape one way or the other. There's going to be knock, knock, knock on the door. And those knocks there are beneficial. Those knocks are there to help us. They're there to make us stop and think and reflect and sort out some of the big issues in our lives. And, you know, I've had, in the BK approach to things, there are two ways really of sorting things out. You can either, you know, rely on the divine and have regular connection and get lots of clearing of your karma through that connection. And if you don't do that, because either you're too busy or too distracted, the other way you're going to clear it is through physical challenges. So I've had a few in my time, you know, like dengue fever, fractured my pelvis twice, and various other things. And each time, I think it's been designed as a wake-up call to make me stop and think, reflect on my life, face my fears, let go of my fears, and then overcome the fears. So, because even when you're on the path and you've been on it quite a long time, there are layers of different experiences which have been suppressed over time. And you clear one lot and then another lot will come up until we finally got rid of them all. So, you know, I would say it's important to pick up the signals. You know, the signals will come in different ways. The fear will be there. Stop, you know, spend a bit of time with paper and pen. What is this fear? What is the root of this fear? Because quite often the fears that we have are very deep roots. It's not just about the here and now. You know, you might be worried about your job in the here and now, but the deep root underneath all of that might be, you know, a past experience where, say, your family was in desperate poverty and there was hardly any food to go around. So even though we're living in a more, you know, what sort of society? More helpful society. I mean, it's still huge poverty, you know, with food banks and everything else, but there are more supports around than there might have been in those days when there was virtually nothing. So, you know, you go right down and track the original fear and then face that fear and then maybe connect with it, talk to it, listen to what it's having to say to you, and then as an adult, as a detached observer, give some feedback to it and say, thank you very much. That fear was useful at the time, but I no longer need it in my life now. And so you can write a list of all your fears if you like, and then in meditation, you can give them to the divine and say, you know, I want to be rid of all these fears. You know, please take them. And then in the taking of the fears and the removal of the fears, what will be underneath? Love, yes. It's because love is who we are. The fears are things which we've attracted. The fears are things which we've acquired over time. They don't really belong to us. Quite often we hold on to them because we don't know any better, or because we're very familiar with them. And in a funny way, they can give us some comfort and support because, we can talk about them. We can spend hours talking about the state of our body. We can spend hours talking about what a terrible childhood we had. We can spend hours, blaming other people for the state I'm in, etc., etc. And if you're that way inclined, there can be some satisfaction in it because you get people's attention and then they swap their stories and you end up creating, an even bigger mix of fear and worry and stress. And then everyone goes away and worries even more. So, that is a lot of really negative, heavy energy, which is not going to help us. It's not going to be very productive. So we let go of all of that, and then we focus on the love. We focus on how we want to be. So it's good to have an image of how you would like to be in your perfect state, in your heaven. How would you like to be in your heaven? So maybe just we'll have a minute where you just go inside and think about how you would like to be in heaven, what it would be like to be in heaven. Just think about it. What would you look like? What would you be feeling? Yeah, well, just for a minute, just visualize it in your own mind, then we can talk about it a bit more afterwards, yeah. And then notice the connection that you'd have with other people all around you. And then think of some of the virtues which you would be expressing there. Because love has many different qualities, many different aspects. And then just imagine the environment, what that will be like. And just see yourself walking around in this heavenly environment. Notice how you're walking. Notice how you're looking. What's your face like? And then open your eyes. Come back into the room. So, was it nice to go to heaven for a minute? Yes. Did you enjoy it? Okay. So, I mean, this is something you could do at home. And I mean, if there was more time and it was more like a workshop, then I'd get you maybe to share in pairs what it was like in heaven, and then maybe we would write down all your answers, on the flip chart so we could see everything. But this is, more of a talk than a workshop, so we can't really do that. But yeah, anyone would like? We can have one or two people sharing though. So maybe one person from this side. Would you like to share? Do we have a microphone for people to share, please? So a volunteer on this side to share. That'd be all right. someone at the back hiding behind her daughter. Would you like to say something? Because with the microphone, so everyone else can hear you. You don't have to. You can say no. It's all right. But you're in heaven now, so you won't have a lack of confidence or anything like that. So, what was it like in your little visualization?
It was peaceful. My nervous system felt calm. And there was no disputes or disagreements. Everyone was just free flowing.
And what did you look like?
I had a smile on my face, and I kind of had this like elegant dress on whilst I'm walking.
Yeah.
That's what I imagined.
Okay, well that's good. And what about your eyes? What were they like? Can you imagine or remember?
I don't know. I just had this huge smile on my face.
Yeah, and your eyes probably would have been sparkling, wouldn't they? With joy and pleasure.
Yes.
And things like that, yeah. And were you rushing around or just walking nice and calmly?
No, I was actually walking slowly.
Yeah, so how were you getting on with everyone else in your little heaven?
Yeah, good. Everyone was just getting on with each other.
Yes, okay. And what about some of the qualities that you experienced or expressed when you were in heaven then? What, do you remember any of them?
I don't know. I'm going to think about that one.
Okay, all right, yeah. Thank you very much for sharing. What's your name, by the way?
Shy.
All right, thank you. And then a volunteer from this side, please. Oh, we've got someone at the front here. Very good. A brave brother.
Yeah, I mean, my vision of looking at it was pretty good because when I visualized it, I felt a sense of peace and clarity. It's as if there was no existence of fear or any negative qualities. And when you were asking us to think about how it would look, I had the picture in my mind, but then I was more interested in what I was feeling more like how how I'd experience it. So it was like when I was communicating with everybody around me, it was more of a, what do you call it, silent, positive way of communicating. So instead of communicating verbally, it's all more to do with action and thoughts. And I don't know, my mind is not totally clear at the time. And in terms of, it's like time to slow down completely.
Yeah, good. And how were you looking then? Can you remember how you were looking?
I don't really put much thought into that, but well, I was looking just, I felt strong and tall, and I just had this radiant smile on my face.
Yes, which you've got now, haven't you? You brought it back with you. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Anyone else want to say something then about the heaven? I think you'd like to, I can tell.
Thank you. So I was feeling like I'm free, totally free. That there are no responsibilities, no thoughts, nothing. So it was very peaceful.
Yeah.
And when you asked how one is looking, so I saw myself in white gown.
Yeah.
I thought there was no smile, but it was very peaceful. I was peacefully walking around.
Oh, good. And what were your relationships like then? What was relationships with others?
Frankly speaking, I didn't see anybody. I was just seeing myself.
Okay, well, that's good. You're honest there, yeah. And you were happy anyway, weren't you? That was the main
Very
thing.
peaceful.
Yeah, that sense of freedom, that's very important, isn't it? Completely free to be yourself. And yourself is that original natural being. You weren't, the doing wasn't important, it's the being. And again, so we've switched from being to doing. And everyone else now usually says to you, what do you do? We very rarely say, A, who are you? Or B, how are you in a more general sense, a spiritual sense. So, yeah, it's interesting to do an exercise like that, because if you can hold on to that model, that way of thinking, that way of being, then you can bring things back from that and apply them now. And then in the modeling, you're, if you like, becoming what you're going to be in the future, if that makes sense. Because we have to practice it here before we become it there. So we're actually in a training ground now, where we have an opportunity to have a vision of how we want to be, positive, powerful vision. And the more we move towards that, then the further away we will be from the other. Because we won't want to connect with it. We won't want to indulge in it, because it will spoil all the good feelings which we're generating on this side. Does that make sense? So if you've got something to aim at, something to go for, it's much easier to go forward than be stuck in the middle here, not knowing where you're going and what you're doing. And, quite often, if you want to get something, say, off a child who won't give you whatever it is, then you offer them something more attractive, and then they'll drop what they've got in their hand, and then they'll go for the other thing. And in a way, it's the same with us. If we've got a model, and Brahma Kumaris, have a very clear model of how we have been and how we will be. And then we're given the methods to get there. So every time you come here, you're, finding out new ways of getting there. If you can connect it all up together, because it's a series of steps or a series of understandings or realizations, which we put into practice. And that is the key thing, putting it into practice. We can know it all in our heads. If we don't put it into practice, then nothing much is going to happen. So, it's 7:30, I'm meant to stop now. So the thing which changes it all, what again takes us from heaven into hell, is a change of consciousness. And this world is based on what sort of consciousness? The hell side. It's based on body consciousness. In a way, this side is based on what sort of consciousness? Soul consciousness. Yeah, so you've got the two different extremes, having the soul conscious world and the body conscious world. And when we're in the body conscious world, then we get stuck in the fear, we get over-identify with things, we think we're our body, we think we're our religion, we think we're our race or our gender and all those sorts of things. And we forget that they're just labels, we forget that they're just roles, and we grip hold of them like that. And if anybody says anything about any of those roles or labels, then we get upset because we feel it's a form of attack on us. and then we go into that fight or flight mode. So anyway, I'll stop now then, and there's a few minutes for questions if anybody's got any questions. Anyone got a question? A little question? Or a big question? Oh, is there any questions from online?
So one question from online viewers. You mentioned that when we are body conscious, we imbibe some of the labels which are related to the body. So similar to that, when we are soul conscious, are there any labels related to the soul?
That's a good question. Are there any labels? No, I don't think there are any labels as such, because we go beyond labels. We are just who we are. And we're not even aware of gender differences or anything like that. So there's no duality. When we're a soul, I mean, when we come onto the earth, there's maybe some mild differentiation, but it's not in the strong way that it becomes later on. So even males and females, they're both androgynous, if that's the right way of pronouncing it. And there's hardly any difference between the man and the woman, apart from the reproductive organs. The face looks the same, the hair is the same length, etc., etc. They dress quite similarly, because there's an awareness that we are all spiritual beings. So, if you like, that's the identity, but we don't necessarily put a label on that because we just are. So it's like the sun. You know, the sun doesn't divide itself into bits. It doesn't sort of shine on one path of or a certain flower or anything like that. It just is, and we're the same. So we don't discriminate in any way against anyone. So we may have like a role of a father or a mother or a child, but there aren't any labels attached to it. And everyone looks quite similar in some ways, all similar, grow to a similar height. So I think the average height is 6 feet. So a lot of people will grow quite a lot, and some of us will have to shrink a little bit to fit into our next body. And we all live to a ripe old age of about 150. And then there's no fear of death because we don't actually die as such. We just move from one costume, if you like, to another, because it's time to put on a new costume. So it's all very different from how things operate now. And there's complete equality of vision. There's complete abundance. We may have different roles and there may be different levels of status, but nobody actually minds because it's all based on love. And whatever position you get is a return of how you have been in this life. So if you made a lot of effort in this life, once you go on the spiritual path and you are the embodiment of love and you do everything you can to help others, you will naturally sort of gravitate towards a higher level, you know, in that age, in that heaven, because it will resonate with how you are now, if that makes sense. But once you're in it, nobody's going to be saying, oh, you're this or you're that. Everybody will feel the same. Everybody will be very happy, whether they're operating a shop or whether they're, growing the food and things like that. So it'll all be very egalitarian, and we'll all be very happy, and there won't be any labels. So, in fact, I think I should talk about it more because I'm quite enjoying it. I don't often talk about it, actually. I'm too bothered with sorting out the here and now, getting rid of all the rubbish that we accumulate on all levels, including loads of possessions and things like that, which we don't really need. So I'm learning a lot at the moment through decluttering my flat and deciding what I'm going to get rid of and why I'm so attached to certain things. So everything actually becomes a message if you look at it in the right way. Everything is revealing something about yourself, your dreams and fantasies, saving onto certain books, hoping that the grandchildren, will want to read them. And in reality now, they hardly read at all because they're all online, looking at things or reading things online rather than real books. So you can have these dreams and fantasies of how you would like life to be, and then there's the reality of how it actually is. And then again, that becomes a test then, because you have to let go and be detached and accept things the way they are, rather than holding on to a dream that the children will spend all their time reading lots of books and things like that. Yeah. Any other questions? No questions online. No other questions online. Oh, yes.
So, I mean, you were talking about how to you were giving an aspect of fear, and you were saying how to overcome it is to actually talk to the fear.
Yeah, that's one way, yes. Listen to the fear. It'll have a voice because it's already telling you, I'm afraid of X, Y, or Z. And then you, as a detached observer or as the adult, you can listen and talk to it and then say thank you very much. But,
That's the first time I've heard of it. No one's ever said fear.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, use your imagination. I think we have to be very creative and do what feels right for us. So I quite like visualization and I like talking or writing. So another thing you can do, you can sit in meditation. Well, maybe we'll do it now then as a meditation then, because I'm meant to be finishing in a minute, aren't I? All right, thanks. Yeah. So just sit there, relaxed. Do the slow, deep, gentle breathing. And turn within and remember who you really are. So I'm a soul, separate from but connected to the body. I'm an eternal being of peace and light and love. And at some time in the past, I came into a body for the first time on this earth. And I felt very happy because I was able to express all my different qualities, and all my virtues, and all my powers. And it was like living in heaven on earth. Then over time, my consciousness changed. And I became more aware of the body as I happened to be in at the time. And I've had a series of bodies. I'm not sure how many, but each time in that consciousness of being a body, I've ended up experiencing different types of sorrow. And the sorrow has been based on fear. Fear of losing something, fear of being hurt, fear of the future. So now, at this moment in time, knowing I'm an eternal being of peace and love, and that fear is not part of my original nature, I want to face and let go of all the fears which are holding me down and making me unhappy. So I sit as a detached observer and I allow all the fears from the past to come before me to say goodbye. So I'm not going to dwell on them. I'm not going to think about them too much. I'm just going to let them come up. Maybe you want to give them a color or a shape. And visualize them all going into a big container on the screen of your mind. So let the fears come, the feelings of the fears, let them come, and let them go into the container. And the container will expand to take as much fear as you want to put in it. And when there's nothing left to put in, when all the fears have stopped coming up, then you seal the box or the container so that none of the fears can come out again. And then in front of the box, you will notice there's a cliff edge, and below that edge, far below, there is a big furnace. So visualize yourself pushing the box over the edge. Push it with love and push it with thanks and gratitude for being a part of your life and helping you in the past. And then watch it tumble down into the furnace. Where it's all burnt to ash. And as it burns away, you feel lighter and happier and freer than you have been for a long time. So just imagine you're like a big, powerful eagle or other bird and just swoop around in the sky, enjoying the freedom beyond the fear. And then when you're ready, come back into this space or wherever you are. Open your eyes and look around you and smile. And then give yourself a pat on the back for having the courage to let go of some of your fears. And then turn to the person next to you and say, well done. Okay. Was that helpful? Yes? So that's sort of thing you can do at home by yourself. You don't need to be here to do that. So it's just an example of the sort of thing that you can do to release what's down there in your subconscious or your unconscious.
Thank you, John, for the wonderful talk. Can you still hear me? Yeah. Before we go, there's a few announcements. Next week talk, same time, same place, and the topic is French, language of soul. Our regular reflective meditations every Mondays and Thursdays, 7 to 7:30 in-house, so everybody's welcome. Also, we do have Sunday morning meditation, which is online only, and time for that is 10 to 10:45. Whoever wish to join, you can register through our website and you will get a link to join. And we do have the Art of Positive Thinking, which is Wednesday and Thursdays, 23rd and 24th of July, 5:30 to 7 in the evening, which is in-house as well. So whoever wish to join, you can register through our website. And I think I do have a book on today's one. One second. And based on today's theme, we do have a book called Dare to Live. It's available in the shop. You can browse through on your way out. So once again, all of you, thank you for joining us, and all thank you to our online viewers as well, and have a safe journey back home. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, so thank you for coming, making the effort on a warm night. So I hope it's been helpful. All right, thank you. Om Shanti.
Thank you.